And then one day somebody came along and said something like, you should do a video on the kind of women to avoid dating. Because I was doing stuff on how to use lawyers in your business, how I use parties to hire people and things like that. And I thought, okay, well, I'll pivot and have a conversation about that. And I just blew up.
Let's talk about your YouTube channel. You kind of had this hockey stick growth, if you will, and your message really resonated with your audience. And so you decided to go into it full time, become an educator. Now I believe you're on a mastermind for men.
Yeah, I've got different groups that I offer to my audience and my community, but that's just one of the elements of it. I started doing YouTube in 2014. I was at a retreat with my business group. So in EO, they have forums, and you usually meet once a year. And we were at this retreat, and I was talking to the facilitator about next steps, because that's what the whole purpose of a retreat is, or a mastermind. When you get together and do these things, is planning out your next few steps. And I had just grown tired of the debt settlement business. And I think most entrepreneurs at some point, they need to pivot, go on to something else. It's not often that a founder of a startup stays in that position for more than a decade or two anyway. So I started cooking up this idea because I've always been a car guy and I like Top Gear, and I enjoyed watching TED Talks. So the plan was to interview friends in their success rides about what it took for them to get those cars. Talk about the cars, talk about their success, obstacles, that were put in the way, sort of thing. And I did about 4, maybe 5 episodes of that. And then I ran out of friends with cool cars to do videos on. And I also discovered the production to create the video was also quite expensive. And the payoff when you're publishing the video on YouTube is very low, especially on a new channel if you don't get enough views. So I wasn't going to stop. I just knew that I liked doing what I was doing. And people were asking me questions. They seemed like early on in the channel, after the first 1,000 subs. I mean, you're still reading the comments in the video at that point because you don't have any too unhinged crazies in there just yet. So people were asking me, other questions about business. And then one day somebody came along and said something like, you should do a video on the kind of women to avoid dating. Because I was doing stuff on how to use lawyers in your business, how I use parties to hire people and things like that. And I thought, okay, well, I'll pivot and have a conversation about that. And I just blew up. Normally I would upload a video and it would get 1,000 or 2,000 views. And at that point, that video got like 100,000 views in the same period of time. So I was like, oh, okay. So, and then you look at the comments in that one and people are asking similar types of questions and you start to lean into those. And it was around the same time that I was already divorced at the time, and I was involved with a lady who had a couple of kids from her prior marriage that I was dating then. And that ended badly. She ended up cheating on me and lying to me and betraying me and doing a whole bunch of stuff. And I started sort of diving into this like red pill space, which kind of leads to the whole manosphere. And I'm not a big fan of that space anymore, but it does contain some good information. Today I call it the manoswamp, and I've learned that a lot of the creators in that space aren't good men or good at being men, but there is some good content there. And a lot of it does come from evolutionary psychology too. So I spent more time doing that sort of stuff. And that kind of led me to where I am today with the book, the podcast, the different channels, the men's community. All of that stuff exists today because of that May 23rd, 2014 weekend at that retreat when I said, I'm just going to start uploading videos to YouTube.
Interesting. So in that red pill community, which ideas that you found there, which ideas do you not agree with or otherwise find not true?
A lot of the conversations and ideas that are held out are reasonably accurate for the most part. There's some things that go over the top, and then there's these different sub communities. Like there's one called the Black Pill or MGTOW, where it's essentially guys that just check out of life, and they sort of not check out of life, but they check out of the sexual marketplace. So they don't date, they don't want to get married, they don't want anything to do with women because women are all bad, sort of thing. Like that's the notion they have, and they're just going to screw you over. And because they're hypergamous, they're always going to cheat on you and find the next guy. But like there's nuances, right? Like puzzles don't contain one piece. It's not like there's, like one piece of a puzzle to health, and there's one piece of that puzzle to relationships, and there's one piece of the puzzle to knowledge and stuff like that. Like a conversation around relationships is a large puzzle with thousands of pieces. And the problem is a lot of these guys, they'll focus on a handful of things. And the guys that are more on the quitting side of life, like they don't want to make the effort, or they don't want to learn the basics, or they don't want to do the work on themselves, will focus on what they don't have and what other people have, and they'll get mad at what other people have. And it's like, it's very similar in other areas of life, right? I mean, like, I'm sure people have shamed you or maybe insulted you for what you do, or for the offers that you put out there, for example. But there are also people that will look at that and say, okay, well, I see value in all these things, so I'm going to lean into it and I'm going to take the value that I want from that. And I think that's what you have to do with anything in life. If you find useful information, it's like an a la carte. You kind of go to the menu. It's like, I'll have some of that. That works. That works. That works. That works. That works. This is a load of BS. This as well. A little bit of this over here. So it takes a little bit of practice to sort of distinguish, what's real from fake, sort of thing. And I spent a few years in the space. I did some speaking events. I did some collabs on YouTube with a few of the other creators. And I just decided one day, it's like, there was too many guys that I was getting to know. And I started to realize they're not good men and they're not good at being men. And they wouldn't have my back if, like one of the tests that I like to use is, look, if the shit hits the fan, if the zombie apocalypse comes or whatever, do I have a tribe of like-minded men that I can rely on? And I begin to learn, no, they're not the kind of people that I want to be around.
I can certainly appreciate that. My definition of a true friend is actually somebody you call at 3 a.m. and you're like, dude, I need this and I can't tell you why. And he doesn't ask
Mm-hmm.
you any questions.
I mean, true friends are the kind of people that will make fun of you to your face, but they'll protect you behind your back. And I think that fake friends are the ones that are kind to your face and talk shit about you behind your back. And it takes a little while to sort of distinguish, between the two. But as you get good at it and you move through life, you start to see the snakes in the grass for who they are.
In Israel, we have a saying, people stabbing in your face. But that has nothing to
Yeah.
do with real friendship. It's more like in Israel, nobody tries to be nice. That's another distinction I made when I moved to Canada. People are like generally mostly nice on the outside here, and everybody keeps like a really cool facade, and they'll be very understanding
Mm-hmm.
and supportive and everything. But not too many people will kind of let you in. They won't really open up much, and this is very different from where I grew up in Ukraine and then in Israel, where it's both cultures are very much about opening up, but it's also
Mm-hmm.
about learning to deal with betrayal, because as you open up to so many people, it's only natural that some of them will betray you. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm very fortunate to not have had gone through the experience of having to experience to have my woman betray me. Hopefully, I never will. But definitely had the experience of people I consider to be true friends. The ones that I would call at 3 a.m. turn their back on me, and learned a few lessons there.